So, yes, this is Calcat the Calcatster, and this is on the Calcat channel, the season 14 of the Calcat show. As we near the end of this season, 7 years longer than we thought we were going to do. Technically, the original Calcat show is going to end in with the 7th season. We just kept going after that, even though, officially it ended with the 7th season. This is not an update of that, though. The channel is there's a couple episodes left, and then we end for the year. We do a New Year's thing. There's no. I don't think this year is going to be necessarily, a comedy special or anything. It's New Year's. Here we have yet again. We didn't have an Adamacon 4 this year. Anyway, it's 2022. We already do a third one earlier, right? We did a third one earlier. Yeah. But this year, Mark Schwartz and Kelly Cat were in the studio talking about the Quentin Tarantino Star Trek pitch and how he was kind of full of it back in the day. But it reminded me of another Star Trek pitch that is the topic for this evening's, this afternoon's hilarious anecdote of the universe. I already went over the whole the other stuff before. I was watching, briefly skipping through the saga of Star Trek Beyond / Star Trek Uncharted, the fan film online story. And the pitch by a game character known as Michael Changamelt, who has currently a YouTube channel and makes short sci-fi things, and they're kind of weird, but not Star Trek. So he's still around, he's still relevant. Whatever happened with that the last time anyone ever did anything with that, and now that Trek Core, the website, is going under in January, or at least part of it is, I'm sure they'll have somebody that'll step up, but it won't be us. We don't have that kind of funds to take over. Just like we didn't for Trek Web either. We offered Trek Web to the guy, but no, they said no. Back when we had something in 2013. We don't anymore, so we can't. This pitch was it's still viral. I still looked it up to see whether the enterprising Star Trek fan and Star Trek fan does pitch and Star Trek super fan does pitch and all this. About 6 months before Star Trek Beyond was going to come out, the last Star Trek film in 2015. So this is 2015 in the summer. The movie was going to come out in late 2016, so it was about a year earlier. And the long epic story is in a nutshell is that Mr. Gummelt wrote a spec script that he posted online using actors, the faces, and wrote it very long, over 120 pages, and got a lot of traffic. And people went to his website thinking, "Oh, he must have pitched. He must have actually done it," And then they interviewed him on several channels, and this is all stemming from Paramount apparently contacting him as a result of him wanting his Star Trek fan site being called Star Trek Beyond, and Paramount said, "We want that domain name for our movie." This is what really happened, and you're gonna have to change it. So he changed it to the most obvious thing. The Uncharted game that was coming out, so he's called it Star Trek Uncharted. It's in the review thing. I obviously hadn't seen Uncharted at that point, so I was like, "Oh, it's another space opera. It's just in space," but it's like, no, it's about pirates and treasure and stuff. It's like Treasure Island meets Pirates of the Caribbean. It's actually what it's really about. There has since been in 2021, I believe, no, 2020 they did a movie of Uncharted. Apparently it was not at all Gemelt's story at all. But in some ways it kind of was. But no. But he's writing on that, at this point. So in 2022, late 2022, he's writing on the success of that game, which gets people to click on his website, not realizing, oh, that's not the game. That's some weird Star Trek pitch from 2015. He claimed that he pitched for Star Trek, and he didn't. He claimed that he talked to the Star Trek people in the writers' room. He didn't. He claimed that he went there in roughly November of 2015. He couldn't have. Most notably because the rules were established a little bit later that fans cannot do that. So that was the nutshell of that story. It is interesting that since then there have been some updates. So I thought I would chime in. Say this is an update of an update. So, yeah. And they've since revealed who the actual writers that Kitty talked to. They're the writer that, from Voyager, who that was. And the writer from, it was Melinda, from Voyager. And there were some other people, I think Mike Freeman might have chimed in there. Don't quote me on that, though. He might have chimed in too. Frakes on his Twitter was a little perturbed. Jonathan Frakes said that Gemelt was using some of his quotes from some other magazine as like he talked to him. He didn't talk to Jonathan Frakes. He just took the quotes from the Twitter page and put them on there, saying, "I totally talked to." No, you didn't. He was outed. Well, not outed, but discovered. He wasn't outed like the closet. He was outed as in they discovered he was making it up. But he's since gone on to do other things that were unrelated. The Calcat was one of the first people on the Trek Corps to say this story about this pitch in 2015 is completely fiction, and he made it up, and he couldn't have done it. Only to be proven right about a year later when Star Trek Beyond came out, and they put up some rules that said, look, you cannot submit any unsolicited scripts to Paramount. We will throw them away. We literally will throw them away, and they'll be gone. Don't email them to us. We will throw them away. We will discard them. Then some of the Gemelt sycophants back in the day, some of the fans, they were pestering some of the channels, including ours, like, you didn't pitch, so which the reply was, actually, we did. In the 90s, they had a contest, and in the writing contest, you were allowed to submit a script to an individual Star Trek show. This was back when Deep Space Nine and Voyager were both on at the same time on the air. And we marked cards under our pseudonyms, marked cards in Calcat, and I wrote a submission for Deep Space Nine and a submission for Voyager from college creative writing class. Got a good grade. Anyway, and although they were rejected ultimately, they were looked at, and the Deep Space Nine script influenced episodes of Deep Space Nine, including, most notably, The Ship, which was an episode of Deep Space Nine. Look that up. We didn't write the ship, but there was dialogue in there from our script there when the female Vorta showed up, and she was like, "I will explain about the female Vorta and why this wouldn't happen." Which they acknowledged later. Yeah, we got that from the script. We used that one line, and we didn't want to pay you. So, well, that's okay. But yes, later on, elements of the Voyager story, which was not about female Vortas and space creatures and that, all that stuff. It's about other stuff, and shapeshifters. The Voyager one was about other stuff. So the Voyager one was about two races warring with each other. Classic Star Trek idea, with Janeway and Tuvok having to figure things out. And then they had too many Tuvok episodes that season. And since that story came out and it was posted for a while, we actually went to conventions where, around 2017, and somewhere around there. And one of the Voyager writers, Snodgrass, was there. And she was and I mentioned the writing contest to her. She said, "Oh yeah, I remember that Voyager script." I remember seeing that. I was probably the one that stamped it. Maybe she was being nice. That's possible. Humoring the fan. Now you can go away. Maybe it was something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. But yes, oh yeah, that one. Yeah, we looked at that one. She was a script director, Lolita Facio's underling at the time, and she looked at it. So, but yeah, and it was stamped twice, so they were going to use it in season 2 possibly, and then season 6, and then somewhere around there. So they ended up not using it, but it would have been interesting. Other episodes were similar. Also, we threw in a gag character called Flotter, who showed up on Voyager. Sort of a Paper Towns character. We threw him in the script to say, we gotta use this name, Flotter. It's really funny. Yeah, there was a Flotter. So our claim to fame on Voyager is Flotter, the funny little blue character who shows up on the holodeck. They didn't think that up, we did. But if you go back to Next Generation, we thought of something like the Borg. We thought of the apple tossing scene from the Abrams movies. Yeah, we thought of that. So yeah, but a lot has changed since then, you see. So on to the Gamel thing. I'm paraphrasing the heck out of this. Okay, so there was this spec script. He didn't write a movie. He was claiming it was a fan film and it was a pitch and it was already a thing. He wasn't. It was later proven by 2017, late in 2017, that what actually happened, even though he contrarily wrote about how to write for Star Trek and how all the Star Trek writers told me how to do it. He basically cribbed from the Calcat thing on. Well, gotta admit, it's good material. So I just got it from the writer's guide. I just cribbing it from there. So he got it from the writer's guide, technically, same place. I'm not a writer's guide person. I wasn't on the staff. Didn't get hired onto it. But yeah, I have since that story published on Amazon over 40 books. So go and read my books. The Cillian Saga and the On Location Saga being the largest. There's Canary Space and Space Vanguards and Space Time Eye. The Cillian Realms is a saga. And the On Location and Starship Locations. And fan films blossomed as of 2019 with Starship Chimera, and then the sequel follow-up 2 years later with Starship Location Strange Worlds, which was liked so much that Disney stole the name in a 2022 movie, Strange World. Disney even liked it. So we had nothing to do with Strange World, by the way. They just took it. We were just spoofing Strange New Worlds, which we knew was coming out. We were just spoofing that. Strange World. Yeah. But our story will not have a world on the back of a turtle in it, I don't think. I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, so it's all in fun. It is interesting, though, that even though he didn't pitch, and he couldn't possibly have, they would have thrown his unsolicited script out, that since then Quentin Tarantino has tried to pitch, and he's a director, he's famous. They didn't like his story either, so love story. Other people have submitted stories and script ideas that are actually famous who could. You see, the famous ones they can, and yeah, that's awesome. But this unknown gamer is not. Having known another gamer from the church group of equal, possibly higher rank than heard of him actually. He had. Star Trek Online kind of stuff. Star Trek Online has some of our Chimera Cillian ideas in it as well, because of this other guy that we knew. So it's everywhere. But even though Gamel didn't pitch, safely say that they knew him. They knew of him. Mr. McMahon from the Rick and Morty, when he did Star Trek Lower Decks, he included at least 2 of Gamel's characters in his story. The transhuman Rutherford is basically the Borg-like guy in the story, and Tandy is basically the Orion girl who was kind of sassy and beat up stuff, and also the warrior lady, the Mariner, and kind of Bulmer. Actually, you could say the 4 of that, the quadrifecta of that story is like Gamelt pitched to McMahon, which is okay. Yeah, Lower Decks is actually good. So actually, McMahon had said someone were posted years ago that, and he didn't know us, we didn't know him, but he commented on some of the posts saying, like, well, there was yeah, you know the part where you said don't reference in your fan film Star Trek. Well, what's the point? I'm gonna reference it if I ever do one. Well, he did. So every episode of Lower Decks, I'm gonna reference Star Trek somewhere. Just to prove that I can. Okay, fine, go ahead. But just in your fan film in general, what the conceit with our thing was that that wasn't necessarily a problem playing with Tony Oliver. That wasn't the problem. It was that in your fan films, typically aren't very original. A lot of fan films come off as fan service to a massive extent. Some of them put in music from the movies, and it makes you want to watch the movies, or jokes from the show, or quotes from the show, and that throws it off because it's not an original idea. I think that's what I meant. It's like, okay, yeah, so don't do Wrath of Khan over and over again just because you like it. Come up with something different, where maybe the villain's not a super evil bad guy, because really Khan is not the Joker. Khan is a villain they encountered, but they treat him like the Joker. Even in the movies, the Abrams movies, he's not the Joker. Khan is one of Kirk's nemesis. He had other ones. I think a Trelane movie would be interesting, and kind of like Q, early proto Q. But they're not going to do that. Also, the unsolicited pitch we had was a space plague going on during the COVID. Yeah, that didn't go over so well. We're not going to do that. So I put it in my fan film instead. So there's a space plague in the background. I put it in my Transformers one first, and then the other one, because we were all in lockdown. There was nothing else to do. So there were a lot of people communicating with other people that wouldn't normally, because they were all in lockdown. What were they going to do? They couldn't get out. So they're all in lockdown. So we're all like, we're talking to each other, shooting ideas back and forth. There was the genesis of stuff like, Lower Decks and Prodigy. And Prodigy. And not to an extent, and not as much Prodigy, though. There's not as much Gamelt in Prodigy. But in Lower Decks, it looks like he didn't pitch, but it looks like they read a script and they just cribbed the characters from the show's Bible part, which is fine. I'm sure they didn't pay him, and if they did, that's fine. So yeah. But he didn't take advice from Harv Bennett directly or anything like that. That's silly. JJ, maybe he talked to JJ, but I don't think so. This whole story about this pitch thing that never happened. It's still out there. You can still search for this pitch and this guy's name. There it is. As if he actually wrote Star Trek Beyond, which he did not. He did not write Star Trek Beyond, and he didn't make his basically Stargate Andromeda with Star Trek people make any sense. There's another fan person that took the idea and made his little short film thing with the 32nd century Starship Kirk. Kind of the same idea in another galaxy. It's just narrative. It's completely narrative with a ship in the background, some visual planets and stuff. It's kind of an odd, but sure, why not? Fan films guidelines have lowered sufficiently since 2016, and you're allowed to do whatever you want, but as long as you don't make any money. So we can do our Starship locations, Strange Worlds. Don't monetize the videos, so they're not monetized, so they're just for free. You can watch them or not. It is interesting though that since then we have met some people at conventions, including David Gerald, who we just recently saw again at a convention. It was like, yeah. So I saw David Gerald again, and who submitted it to us, which is funny because we're a fan film and we're not anybody. His Triple Planet script treatment in 2017, and we said, "Oh yeah, we got to do this." Well, 2021, we did. So yeah, the Triple thing. Wanted to see his reaction when we both showed up 2022 at the other convention, and he's like, So how did you like our treatment of your Tribble story? It's like, well, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I did watch the preview. And yeah, that's creative. So I bet you can't. I bet you won't want to tackle Blood and Fire though. That's my better script. So yeah, we saw the fan film for Blood and Fire earlier on Phase 2, and we're like, no, we can't tackle that. That would just, we wouldn't do it justice. It wouldn't work. Regulon bloodworms and all that stuff. Just yeah. So we did something similar, but with we put the bluegill parasites inside the tribbles to give them sentience, which was clever. But that's kind of similar, controlling their minds and whatever. But yes, similar. Although we did this year, we did pick up the peppermint striped tribble for season 3 of Starship, and we're gonna. And he said, yeah, if you bring back one of those characters from that, make him a good guy this time, just to be weird. So Peppermint is coming back, and he's a good guy. Yeah, and he's all, don't kill the gay characters. So, no, we won't do that. Give them something to do, and don't take any advice from Star Trek Discovery. He didn't like that. So. He didn't like Star Trek Discovery. He didn't like what they did. He apparently hasn't seen season 2 where they brought the gay character back, but they brought him back stupidly. They're like, oh, he's a space god for a little while. What? Okay, that's dumb. Yeah, he's not a Q. That's that's weird. And then he's not. And he's just a guy again. He's like, no. But yeah, you also saw George Takei and his husband. Oh my! But yes, it was a convention that was sitting next to him. So, well, a couple of seats down from Mr. Takei, George Takei's husband. Oh my! And his cadre had different people had oh my shirts. Oh my shirts. They said oh my on them. Bizarre. That was the Adam Savage convention, yeah. Yeah, so Trekkie convention. So yeah, Mark's Cards got to go to that one. So on this channel, if you want to go back and watch and on the Weird Kitty channel, you can watch the other version. I think the Creepypasta one is on this channel, but on the other channel is the actual convention. On the Weird Kitty 07 or Calicat's Reviews channel. Yeah, so Gamelt has apparently influenced the Star Trek Lower Decks. So if you watch Star Trek Lower Decks, there's his story. Pretty much season 1 of Lower Decks is that spec script right there. So, well, but he didn't pitch it. McMahon just cribbed it, basically. All the good stuff from it. But later on, it kind of did its own thing. By season 3, it's kind of its own thing. So yeah, it's not, season 3 it's its own thing. But yeah, so he did sort of bitch in the end, but not directly, wasn't paid. So he's still out there, and yeah, and some elements of his script story ended up in Cillian Realms, and where we spoofed it, and we sort of just spoofed the dialogue between the characters as they discussed his story. Of course, we didn't really give credit for that because that's a little odd, and yeah, and like with some other story that we cribbed from, we couldn't give credit. Well, we gave credit for this other guy, Colavito, but then he contacted PM'd and said, no, I had nothing to do with your blog thing. Don't take me off there. I don't want to be on there. But Gamel was like, oh, fine. Yeah. You helped me rewrite the script. So cool. Yes. Indirectly. Yeah. So he was okay with it. But in the end, he didn't pitch. He didn't pitch at all. So he pitched to the fans, and he never got his fan film made. Maybe he'll get his fan film made. Maybe put some friends of his in the fan film and watch it. Heaven forbid we should review his fan film. But yes. We have a version of those characters, Tendi, Rutherford, and Mariner, and Boilmer in the other story. Interestingly enough, they choose the name Boilmer And they got that from our stuff, from Space Vanguards. No, not Space Vanguards. What is it? Space Timeline. They got that from that. So they used the names from one of the names from ours. But yeah, they changed the names. It's a coincidence. Bulmer's pretty much the same dude. Mariner's the fighter chick. Yeah. Tendi is the Orion chick. who has the personality of the Cillian Realms character, Sandra Talisman. Who was based on another Sandra who is not exceptionally flattered at that character. But her brother thinks it's hilarious, so it's fine. Only for her father to appear as the Shadow Dancer character. Well, not for real, but one of us playing him. It's not really him, playing him. Just to be weird, having nothing to do with Gamills, but it's fun. So he did influence Star Trek Lower Decks, as well as Cillian Realms influenced Lower Decks. Season 3 is more like something we would have written. So, yeah, interesting. We had nothing to do with it. We weren't there. We didn't pitch it. Yeah, we didn't pitch it. There's been another video game since Addis Ababa game, which they kind of cribbed those water bear things, the creatures game. Tardigrades. Yeah, it wasn't actually, but kind of, sort of, the look of it. Also, the Discovery kind of did the Cross the Galaxy thing, too, with the going into the future, where the future's all weird. That's kind of his story, too. That's kind of his version of Uncharted, is kind of Discovery, the last 2 seasons. Kind of. With the weird sort of other Starfleet, with a sort of thing, kind of suggestively angry, or future realm thing kind of going on. It's very similar, so he has influence on it. And of course, the first characters, bad guys and good guys, and maybe questionable guys they encounter when they get to the 32nd century, Discovery Season 3. And then Season 4, the first guy they encounter is a dude named Cal, of course. And later on at the end, Sue Cal, Jung Swon student Sue Cal, the alien, the Kelpian, is responsible for the space burn that blew up everything. What? Sick burn, yeah. Yeah. Why don't they just, and Mark's Cards and I say the same thing over and over. Why don't you guys just hire us? Let us pitch? Because that'd be awesome. We'd pitch. No, I'm not going to do that. Because you're screwing up stuff. Way back. But yes, just let us pitch. We'll come over and pitch. If you hate it, okay then. Mark's Cards has not yet seen Season 2 of Picard. I love Season 1. Season 1 of Picard was very similar to stuff we would have written, so we did a form parody of it in our Phantoma and Clerks story, of which the first half was co-written by someone else from the church. Still around, but wanted to take her name off. It's interesting how during the pandemic everyone's kind of like had more connection with those other people out there without realizing it. It was very similar to the Wild West of back in the day of the chat rooms and chat boards and BBS and stuff, where fans were on the site in the finale of Deep Space Nine back in the day when it was ending in 1999, and you could actually talk to Ira Stephen Bear and more those guys, click and ask them stuff, but you can't do that anymore. Like, why did Odo touch the shapeshifter's heart? And he did that before and nothing ever happened. They're all like, we just didn't think of that. Shapeshifter lady, they didn't think of that. Why not? And of course, the big spiel. You could actually ask them, okay, why didn't Kira ever fight Kai Wynn at the end in like a final battle? Big cat fight. Why'd you stop to the Vic Fontaine scene at the end? It's like, we ran out of money. We couldn't show that. And she was on the other planet. Yeah, okay. Then what about the fleet? You know, with the space fleet just suddenly not there, and then the commercial break ends and they're on the planet. We ran out of money. Well, maybe if you hadn't spent half of the money doing the Fontaine set again, you could have spent it on some special effects to show at least one of those ships blowing up. Yeah, maybe you guys should write for Star Trek someday. Then you can have your own finale that's better. No. It wasn't just us suggesting that. They didn't end up writing for Star Trek one day. But let's assume those people that responded to that didn't get hired at Paramount. They probably said, "Okay, this guy, don't find his IP address. Don't ever contact him." But yeah. So this pitch idea story has influenced the current iterations of Star Trek. So he has influenced them just by osmosis. I don't think they necessarily got a pitch from him. I think they just read the script. Everybody read it, and they're just like, let's throw pieces of that in our story. Even the Diviner thing is kind of something you would have thought of. Although the Dreadnought is clearly a Calcat thing. But yes, clearly a Transformer. Yeah, obviously. And they were probably thinking Michael Bay as well, and I don't know him. Even though it's a weird coincidence that Mark Card's real name is in 2 of Michael Bay's Transformer movies. That's just odd. Yeah. This is odd. Ooh, at least we're not in Kenobi and The Mandalorian somewhere. That would have been weird. Although that guy, the video game guy, is clearly. But yes, Kenobi and The Mandalorian. I would say of the Marvel movies done back in the day, if any of those were Calcat or Mark's Cards, WandaVision. Clearly Mark's Cards, especially the first one. But we didn't really write WandaVision. It was influenced by the Cillian stuff. This omnipotent space creature like a Cillian. The Scarlet Witch is a Cillian, basically. She has powers and she can manifest reality. It's a Cillian. She's a Cillian. Okay. That's funny. She's a Cillian. Which is the explanation for everything. Like the Trek Yards people are at this point slightly annoyed at that. They're like, you guys, everything's a Cillian from your Cillian realm thing. Come on, man. It was like every new Star Trek alien. It's a Cillian, I tell you. It's a Cillian. No, it's not. And they come up with Cal and Discovery, and they were like, oh, is he a Cillian? Yes, he is. Cal is a Cillian. Q powers. Not QAnon. Q was in Q, like Q, the omnipotent space being. It's a penance, Picard. Oh, and catch her cameo in the forward 10 bar thing in Picard season 2. Yeah. What the heck? 10 Forward Street. What? No. Yes, Mike Kamelt was there, though. What? Was there? Yeah, he was in it. I wasn't in it. He was in it. No, he wasn't. Okay. He pitched. Yeah, nobody pitching for Star Trek. As for that Section 31 show or the Academy show, if they do an Academy show, they should just acknowledge that it's Silly Trek, and just hire us, and we'll write it. Star Trek 90210, we could do that. We've done it. They just scrib Andover the entire series and just stick it in there. Crib. Just call it Star Trek Andover. There you go. No one will get it. It'll be completely nonsense. But get it. So yeah, that was an update of the good old rant thing here in late December. So I thought it would be funny to go back and look at that and go like, oh, he actually has influenced Star Trek. So even though he didn't technically pitch, he influenced every fan, including some people that actually wrote for it, to write for actual, all right, that's one way to do it. Yeah, and ours did too. So there you go. So, Ew, and ticked off the Netflix creator guy by accident. The Netflix Transformers creator guy. I thought it wasn't him. It was. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, we didn't mind your Netflix show, Transformers thing. It's fine. We also ticked off the net when we said that the Kevin Smith He-Man show is actually good. Just watch the second half, and then it redeems itself immediately. Like in the first episode of season 2 of that, it redeems itself because they discover that, oh, he actually isn't defeated. He had, yeah. I'm going to show Beast He-Man here and get everybody back. Although the other one is weird, which they're not complaining about, the kitty one with a, oh yeah, and that one does have a Calicat connection. There's a character called Crass in it. That's right out of Starship Location. So weirdly enough, we have a He-Man connection. That's just odd. Masters of the Universe with Crass. She's literally Crass. Crass. And also, of course, it's officially canon as of Lower Decks that Cedo Jaxa survived and was rescued from the Cardassian prison. She was rescued from the Cardassian prison. She shows up in the first season of Lower Decks as a character, and then later on in the next one, so just randomly. So that's her, Cedo Jaxa. She survived. They rescued her at some point. If you know who rescued her, it was Nick Locarno, because that's canon. Yeah. And maybe the guy that showed up on Lower Decks as Tom Paris was actually Nick Locarno. It wasn't actually Tom Paris. It was his twin brother, Nick Locarno. Yeah. In an homage to Silly Trek, of course, or Starship Realms thing. Probably not, but yeah. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds is pretty awesome, but the only thing they screwed up was the Gorn. They made the Gorn they messed up the Gorn. They made them like alien parasite things from the Tribble story. That's not right. Those are not Gorn. That's something else. Those are Regulon bloodworms. They got it wrong. They should have said those were Regulon bloodworms. They were trying to do Blood and Fire, and you screwed that one up. Didn't do it right. Well, I knew it right. Yeah, because if you're gonna have two intimate gay characters, they gotta be making out on screen. Yeah. And Melt, being kind of a conservative, probably wouldn't like that. But I'm not, so oh my, I would totally write a character like that. They're like, just to make the hyper ones like squeamish. Yes, I'm thinking make characters make it squeamish. So yeah, so if it wasn't for the other characters doing what they did there. So yeah, the script writing thing was a little harsh years ago. Yeah, a little too harsh. Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, it's a fan story. It was never a movie, never a pitch for a movie. Yeah. Since then, they discovered, the pitch was a cease and desist letter from Paramount Pictures, saying you need to change your domain name. We're gonna sue you. So they said, oh shit. So we changed the domain name because he didn't want to get sued. That's all it was. Yeah, it wasn't a pitch. They weren't saying, "Well, don't call us, we'll call you." They were saying, like, yeah, you can't use that domain name. A similar thing happened with the new Star Wars, because The Force Awakens was actually, somebody had a website called The Force Awakens, and it was like the little fan film. They had to change it. Disney said, nope, you got to change that. And you can watch the little fan film. I think it's still up somewhere. I don't know. It's bad. Yeah. But, 2 or 3 guys in the street. It's like, fine. It's not supposed to be high art at that point. And if you're going to make it that campy, why not? No. Yes. Force Awakens. See you out there, somewhere. Live long and prosper.